miss the person or the hope, there is a difficult truth to accept. Sometimes you don't miss the person. You miss the hope, the expectation, the plans you made, the life you imagined having by her side. Because when a relationship ends, we don't always lose just someone. Sometimes we lose an entire future that existed inside our own mind. And that is why some goodbyes hurt so much. Not because the relationship was good, not because you were happy, but because there was a version of the story you believed could still happen. You believed the person would change, that things would get better, that one day you would finally be seen, chosen, loved the way you needed to be. And then a painful moment arrives, the moment when you realize you are not suffering just for the person. You are suffering for the dream you built around her. Maybe that is why some people stay emotionally stuck even after it ends, because they are not trying to get someone back. They are trying to get back a possibility, a promise, an expectation. But there is an important difference. The person was real. The expectation was imaginary. And many times what hurts the most to lose is exactly what never actually existed. Book reflection. In Women Who Love Too Much, Robin Norwood describes how we often attach not only to the relationship that exists, but to the relationship we believe will one day exist. And while we wait for that idealized version to happen, we keep postponing our own life. Filmed to reflect on Elizabeth's journey in Eat, Pray, Love begins when she realizes that continuing to insist on a story no longer made sense, and that to move forward, she needed to let go not just of a person, but of the life she imagined living by his side. Emotional practice of the day. Ask yourself, do I miss the person or the expectation I created about them? What did I believe would happen if this relationship had worked out? What part of that hope can I build for myself today? Maybe you are not crying for what you lost. Maybe you are crying for what never happened. And maybe healing begins when you understand that your happiness does not need to stay trapped in a story that only existed in your imagination. Because some people leave, but the life you dreamed of living, that can still happen, just in a different way. I want to talk about something that confuses a lot of people during heartbreak. The question I hear often is, why does it still hurt so much if I know this relationship wasn't good for me? And the answer, most of the time, is not about the person. It is about the life project you built around them. Psychologically, this has a simple explanation. The brain doesn't only grieve real losses, it also grieves symbolic losses, futures that never happened, but that already had a reserved space inside your mind. You weren't just dating a person, you were dating a narrative. A version of them that may never have truly existed. And when the relationship ends, you don't just lose the present, you lose the imagined future. You lose the plans you made without realizing you were making them. You lose the version of yourself that existed inside that story. This explains why, sometimes, we miss the hope more than the person itself. The good news is that this kind of grief, although difficult, has a clearer path forward. Because you don't need to get a person back. You only need to give yourself permission to dream again, with a different story, with a different possibility, one that, this time, is real.